Let's break it down. What happens when a national icon says the safest career move is silence? Not because the music got worse, but because the room got narrower. Because that's the real story behind the sudden backlash aimed at A.R. Rahman, a composer who has been treated for decades as beyond politics. Until one interview clip made him political anyway. And this isn't just celebrity gossip, it's a stress test for India's creative freedom, a case study in how online outrage polices speech, and a reminder that in today's culture wars, even global awards don't guarantee domestic insulation. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because by the end you'll understand what Rahman actually said, why the reaction was so intense, and what it could mean for Bollywood, India's soft power, and the rest of the world watching. Now, I'm Imran, a Middle East-based analyst, and on this channel we don't do shouting, we do structure. Here's the spark. In a long-form interview, Rahman reflected on why he's had fewer big Hindi film projects in recent years. He described a power shift inside the industry and then added a line that detonated online, that it might have been a communal thing. Though he stressed it wasn't said to his face and came to him as Chinese whispers. In plain English, he wasn't claiming someone confronted him with religious bias. He was saying he suspected there might be bias in the system, communicated indirectly through the way decisions get made behind closed doors, but the internet doesn't run on nuance. Within hours, the clip was reframed as Rahman accused Bollywood and India of communal discrimination. And once the frame hardens, the incentives kick in. Outrage creates engagement. Engagement creates visibility. Visibility creates a bandwagon. And the bandwagon becomes pressure. That pressure took familiar forms. Demands for apology. Accusations of playing the victim card. And questions about patriotism, even though Rahman's career is basically an export product for India's cultural brand. And notice the pattern. The outrage isn't rebutting evidence. It's attacking the right to speak. Label someone anti-national, and you don't debate them, you isolate them. That's the mechanics of online punishment. Fast, cheap, and often more effective than formal institutions. He has Oscars, Grammys, a Golden Globe, and one of India's highest civilian awards. His music has crossed language and religion for 3 decades. His work has literally been used as national symbolism. Yet in this moment, his status wasn't a shield. It became the target. And then came the second act, containment. Rahman released a clarification video with a very careful tone, saying he never intended to hurt anyone, that India is his inspiration and home, and that music is his way to honor the country. This is the part people should pay attention to because it reveals the new rule set. In a polarized environment, the correct response isn't debate, it's reassurance, not here's my argument. But please understand my loyalty. That tells you a lot about the costs people perceive. Now zoom out. Why is this happening now? Because this isn't only about one composer. It's about a broader shift in India's public sphere where identity and politics increasingly determine how speech is interpreted and how quickly it can be punished. Since 2014, India's politics has seen a stronger mainstreaming of Hindu nationalist narratives. That doesn't mean every criticism is valid or every supporter is extreme, but it does mean the cultural incentives have changed. Bollywood has always been political in some way, but historically it often externalized conflict. Foreign villains, cross-border tensions, the enemy out there. In the last decade, more stories have moved conflict inward, toward identity, history, and who belongs. Some films aligned with majoritarian narratives have been loudly amplified. Others have been punished through boycott campaigns and online pressure. So when Rahman uses a word like communal, it isn't heard as a comment about industry dynamics. It's heard as a comment about the country's moral identity. And that's why the reaction becomes existential. Are you insulting the nation? This is the modern logic of cultural politics. If the nation is framed as one identity, then questioning bias sounds like questioning the nation itself. Now here's the key mechanism that makes this powerful. Asymmetric risk. For most people in the industry, speaking up has downside and silence has upside. If you defend Rahman publicly, you inherit the controversy. If you stay quiet, you avoid becoming the next target. So you get the chilling effect. Not because everyone agrees with the outrage, but because everyone calculates the cost. And that's why Rahman's line about silence feels so important. It's not only his personal frustration, it's a signal about the incentive structure for an entire sector, okay? Why should anyone outside India care? Because India's cultural industry is not just entertainment, it's geopolitics. Bollywood and Indian music are a massive soft power engine. In the Gulf, in Africa, across South Asia, and throughout the diaspora in the US, the UK, and Canada. Soft power is basically influence without coercion. It's how a country becomes familiar and liked, even when politics are complicated. But soft power depends on relatability, and relatability depends on pluralism. If India's mainstream culture becomes perceived as narrower, more ideological, or less open to dissent, the brand risk grows. Not overnight, but gradually. Studios, streamers, sponsors, and international partners start to think, is this going to explode online? Is this going to trigger a backlash? Is this safe? And that changes investment decisions, casting decisions, story choices before anyone even says a word. Now add one more layer, the digital ecosystem. Outrage is not only organic emotion, it's also an organized tactic. Reports tracking hate speech and incitement events show a rise in anti-minority rhetoric in India's public sphere in recent years. Whether you accept every methodology or not, the trend line is hard to ignore. More events, more normalization, and more political incentives for sharper identity language. In that environment, cultural figures become symbolic battlegrounds because symbols travel faster than policy. A composer saying communal thing is easier to mobilize against than a complicated debate about jobs, inflation, or governance. So what happens next? There are three plausible paths. Path 1. Normalization. Rahman's clarification works. The outrage fades, and everyone learns the same lesson. Don't touch identity, don't touch power, don't touch industry politics. That leads to more self-censorship, not through law, but through markets and fear. Path 2. Selective resistance. A few top-tier figures decide their international standing gives them room to speak. They push back, carefully, indirectly, and that opens some space. But that's risky, because online outrage doesn't respect awards. Path 3. Fragmentation. Bollywood doesn't become one thing, but splits into parallel lanes. One lane that leans into majoritarian narratives for domestic safety. Another lane that targets global audiences with safer, more universal themes. If that happens, India's cultural output becomes less cohesive, and the soft power message becomes more contested. So what's my takeaway? A.R. Rahman didn't suddenly become anti-national. He collided with a system where meaning is assigned by political incentive, not by full context, and the bigger warning is not about one person. It's about how quickly a country's creative space can shrink when outrage becomes governance by mob. If you care about India, you should want its culture to be confident, strong enough to handle disagreement without demanding a loyalty ritual every time someone speaks. Because when silence becomes the safest career choice, it's not just artists who lose. The society loses its ability to tell the truth about itself. Let me know what you think. Was this backlash a one-off social media storm or a sign of something deeper? Drop your view in the comments. And if you want more structured, non-hysterical analysis of power, culture, and geopolitics, hit subscribe and share this with someone who's tired of propaganda from all sides. Let's break it down again next time.